Ladies and gentlemen, good day of a new episode of the BagFather. We are here in Los Angeles, not because I'm getting a star finally on the Walk of Fame, but we are joined by Jason Bryan and Azmat Aulakh from GJM Inc., a design and architecture firm shaping some of the most complex and operational demanding spaces in aviation. GM sits right at the point where passenger experience meets operational reality, and I love that. Check-in halls, security zones, baggage claim, carousels, and the space where the journeys are either made smooth or just fall apart. In this episode, we are digging into how airports are actually designed to cope with baggage. Not just on the drawings, but in live operation. What works, what doesn't work, and how good design can reduce friction with passengers, airlines, and baggage teams alike. If you have ever wondered why some terminals just flow better than others, or how design decisions made years ago still affect baggage performance of today, this episode is the one for you. So let's get into it. We are here in Los Angeles with Ryan and Azmat. Welcome, guys. Very much looking forward to this conversation. Tell me, it's interesting. 50% of all square meters on every airport are used by baggage. Also on Los Angeles, your territory. Talk me through it, because it looks like a total mess to me.
It is a mess. It's a organized chaos, if you will. The systems are designed with efficiency. They're designed with maximum throughput of baggage systems, but you also have to weave that within the design of the terminal and the space that is allowed. And so looking at a map and layout of a system looks like the worst bowl of spaghetti that you can you can actually see. And your bag has to we have to ensure that your bag, when design, gets from the point where you drop it off behind the counter through security to makeup claim within a certain amount of time. And again, and that is within the design parameters that we're given. So even right now, we're going through this exercise at LAX Terminal 5, and where the terminal has been demolished. I started in, I think, beginning of December, and it'll be rebuilt using modular pieces. And we're going through the design right now and changing it from moving it because there's a elevator core in the way, or there's current piping or electrical in the way. We have to drop the conveyor 6 inches or 18 inches in some spots because they changed the design of the terminal. And so the system itself is complex, and to a point, it's magical when you see it all running. And we have 15 to 20,000 bags in an hour or in a day to get through and make sure every single one gets to where it's supposed to go.
And you are simply the best of the best, I have to say, when it comes to airport design. Or am I too over exaggerating right now?
I mean, you said it, so I'm not going to stop you from that.
Jen, help me here. Help me here.
Yeah, no, this is a discussion that I love, and I live every day from the baggage design side of things, and especially in brownfield sites. You're right. Do we find the space? We finally find the space, but now there's all these clashes that we have to work within. So relocating any MEP services or sprinklers or whatever the clash is, it's challenging to find that space and get the throughput that you need, and maintain operations, maintain accessibility to equipment for any kind of maintenance. So these are things that we're dealing with every day, and a frustration that we felt for a number of years, that everybody's just basing space allocations for baggage on a conventional system. And to your point, a lot of the technology that can be infused, just space isn't allocated in order to allow that to work. So love finding the folks who are forward thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel that unfortunately, the baggage system is kind of an afterthought of airport design, of terminal design. And part of that is because it's not seen by the public. It's not seen by a good majority of the employees there at the airport. And so when it comes to baggage, it's here's the terminal, here's what we need, and just fit it around everything else that we have.
Yeah,
And unfortunately, a major system like a baggage system is kind of put on the back burner when it comes to airport terminal design.
Yeah,
absolutely.
and Ryan Azmat filled me in. Maybe it's good for the listeners to understand a little bit about your company GDM and how you normally perform. But I'm also very curious about the background and the history of the company, because I know it's interesting, but let's share that with the rest of the world.
Sure. JGM, we are essentially a third generation company. My father had a mentor, Kerry Jenkins, who was a very prominent architect in Los Angeles in the 1960s going forward. Uh, my father merged his company with Kerry's in 1981. And so the JGM is Jenkins, Gales, and Martinez. We've been operating as such ever since. Our first large project was actually in preparation for the 1984 Olympics and building the second level roadway of LAX. So we're kind of,
That was Ben Johnson. Remember him?
yeah.
So Ben Johnson went to your terminal and he was running through the terminal. It was smooth already. That's what he did. It gives a little bit away how old I am, actually.
Hey, there you go. Yeah, and the fact that I remember Ben Johnson, so I'm right there with you.
Carl Lewis and Ben Johnson running through the terminal, getting in and out, throwing their bags all over the place. That was Los Angeles, 1984.
That was 84. Yeah. So we've always done architecture, and then the construction and project management when that became a part of the lexicon of construction, if you will. We've been performing those services ever since. And we got into the baggage operation and maintenance about 20 years ago. LAX was at Terminal 3, 2 and 3, rebuilding their baggage system. Siemens, we had a relationship with Siemens doing some energy audits at the airport, and they asked us to do some QA, QC work, some design assistance on the baggage system, and we, of course, assisted. When the system was installed, they had a warranty period of, I think, 6 months or so to ensure everything was working fine. And they didn't want to hire the staff in which to do the O&M for 6 months, and asked us if that was something we'd be interested in. And we said, sure, we'll give it a shot. And 6 months, how big of an investment could that be? And so we hired the staff, bought the equipment, and learned everything we could about baggage. And that was myself crawling in the bowels of LAX in this beast that I have flown out of for I think 27 years, 28 years of my life at that point, and went, this is absolutely fascinating. My background is in civil engineering, so to have to be able to crawl underneath an airport was already fascinating enough, and now learning these systems, learning these behind the scenes operations and how these things work, the logic behind it was absolutely fascinating to me. And so I actually went to Germany, to Siemens Airport Technologies building, if you will, in outside of Nuremberg. And
it's airport. It's Siemens Logistics.
The Siemens Logistics, yes.
Yeah, fine.
And went there for a couple of weeks at a time to learn everything about their systems, and I loved it. Loved it.
It's actually fantastic, because Siemens is now part of Van der Lande Group, and it will bring you to the Netherlands.
That hasn't finished up in the States yet.
I've never been to the Netherlands, so I am looking forward to that trip.
Yeah,
very good. So when you spend some of the O&M time, does that change your perspective from the CapEx to the OpEx portion on how you're designing moving forward?
It does. It really does. It gives you a mindset of not just designing, but designing for the end user and designing with that O&M in mind. And so it's the access to conveyors and what's the time from the control room to the CTX machines or to TSA. All those things you go, how easy is it to access where we're putting these conveyors? If we're hanging them at this spot, does someone have to army crawl through a panel in which to get to it? So having that knowledge has been really key to trying to design an efficient system for the end user, which is the O&M.
Yeah, and it's interesting actually, Ryan and Asmat, because you design it for the peak capacity, right? It's there's where you have the mass of the people, the mass of the bags, but most of the time you don't need that. Can you highlight on that a little bit?
Absolutely. You design for worst case scenario, if you will. You design for Christmas Eve or the Wednesday before
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you're doing these calculations of the terminal. How many flights will be going out? What's the maximum amount of flights in a day and the maximum amount of passengers? And if they each have 2 to 3 bags that they're checking in, what is that throughput during that day? And that's what you design towards. Anything less than that, and when that scenario actually happens, and it will happen, you're looking at I won't say a catastrophe, but it's okay. What is our backup plan to move these bags faster than what the system can allow?
In an ideal world, you plan a whole terminal around the passenger troop route, the baggage. But the unfortunately, I was in Los Angeles recently, but I didn't use LAX. I was on the executive airport, which is sometimes good. But I would have loved to see the new LAX because I haven't seen it yet. Are there still very obvious mistakes that airports make, which you see, which should be addressed? Because I see them, but I'm curious if you see them as well.
Absolutely. In the U.S., I think we're a little gun shy, and that's funny to say. Funny term for the U.S. That
I don't think it's funny.
it's not funny, but ironic, if you will.
Yeah.
The term gun shy being used for the U.S. We are a little gun shy with technology, and think Europe, certainly Asia, and the Middle East, they will look for new technologies when it comes to airports, and not even just baggage systems, but any system that is involved with an airport. They look for what is that new, what is that cutting edge, what is that most efficient, what is going to give the passengers that best experience. They look for those. The US, we look for those after they've already been implemented for 10, 15 plus years. And I realized that when I was making those trips to Germany and the Siemens Logistics, when I saw something as simple as the parking lights that gives you green and red when you're parking where a spot is empty. That was, like I said, 20 plus years ago. And we're just now in places implementing that. It was the first time I'd seen a QR code and was told this is going to be your boarding pass. And I went, shut your mouth. Like, that is the coolest thing. I'll be able to use my phone and support. And so these technologies that they had, that they were already not even just developing, that implementing in Europe, we didn't see that for 15 years later. My friends are, their minds are being blown. And I went, I've seen this.
And Ryan, do you still use checks? Are you writing check once in a while?
Only because I had construction on my house, and so I had to write a check to a contractor.
I hear what you're saying, and I tend to look at it a little bit differently through my experience, because the airports here in Europe are definitely very conservative, and I have some very progressive airports. One of the airports that was very progressive, I deal a lot with Orlando Airport. but also Atlanta, for example, where autonomous operations is becoming the standard. Delta is doing a great job. They did a lousy job on RFID, by the way, Jen, but they did a great job on autonomous operations. For example, on the passenger boarding bridges, which is phenomenal, and it changes the ball game a little bit. What kind of technology do you see will have a high impact on the passenger experience and the baggage experience? Because don't get me wrong, the baggage experience, I haven't seen one airport who has a great experience. Baggage is still a shit show.
Absolutely. And I think as it goes to the US, we should have migrated to tray systems years and years and years ago. And because the ghost of Denver International back in the early 90s or whenever that was, and
Sharing bags in half. Yeah.
that was a tremendous failure.
Let's explain that. Let's explain that for the listeners a little bit. On a certain point, they even asked by then Elon Musk to help them out with that baggage system, and even Elon Musk said, "No, it's easier to get autonomous driving vehicles across the world and land a rocket back on Earth." That's what he said about Denver Airport, right?
Yeah, that's what he said. And but that because that tray system failed so spectacularly, the US has been afraid of trays ever since. And
since then we are using the phrase Denver, we have a problem instead of Houston, we have a
that
problem.
is it, yeah. And so we are stuck on belts. We are stuck on belts. And no, Von der Lande is their ICS system, which is at LAX, and that's going great. But outside of that, you don't see it. Everything is belt. They don't want to make the investment. It does cost more to do the trays, but it's much more efficient. It's much more secure. But we don't want to do it.
And there are a number of airports who are finally taking up on ICS or crossbelt. So LAX is not the only, but Orlando, San Francisco, you mentioned Denver, and Denver would be utilizing a crossbelt system for some of their baggage throughput there also. So finally we're starting to see it, but it's taking a minute.
And Azmat, do me a favor. Can you get rid of the baggage carousel? I hate those things. if you look at it from a distance, all people gathering about the bell. Is that my bag? No. Is it coming? Yes or no? What's the future of that? Because that's the last part, but it always makes sure that I leave the airport with a very bad experience, because that's the last momentum. Shoulder rubbing with people, my bag is being thrown around, and the square meters they are using, it's insane. What are you going to do about that, Azmat? What's in your mind right now?
I mean, I think I will say it's an evolution in progress. Like, I'll give you an example when we're talking about the technology. At Terminal B LaGuardia, right, we have, as a company, we're experiencing a very forward-looking baggage system experience. For instance, the back end of the baggage system in MIT rooms, it's very future-looking. We are not using human shield to take the baggage for the secondary inspections. We are using all automated vehicles which have an inbuilt GPS system, and they drive the bags to the TSA agent for the secondary inspections, right?
I've seen them, yeah.
So I feel there is a hope, and we as a company are already ahead of the curve, meaning that we are dealing with that technology, but we're also old enough that we're dealing with the 1990s system at EWR Airport Terminal B, right? So between the two stretches, I feel there will be a system in place where we really don't have to use that many space for the carousels, and maybe there will be a reinvention. In my opinion, I will see it as you're going to a grocery aisle, right? And all you have to do is somebody's plugging in your bag into the aisle. All you have to do is pick and walk away. And you're just dedicating one wall for passengers to pick up their bags. And maybe they just go with their last names and call off the day.
Yeah, or bring it to their car in the parking lot, for example. Yeah, it's For me, and I'm always surprised on how much square meters are being used by that. And fundamentally, we are copying it every single time. And people underestimate what I think what the impact is on the passenger experience. So what did you learn about that in the last 20 years, 30 years in that evolution about how people are using it? Because in the boardrooms, I always call them the ivory towers, very naive, they don't understand, and they brag about the passenger experience. But from your perspective, what did you learn? What worked very well in baggage and what did not?
That's a very good question. Why? Because we're still doing the same things we've done 20 years ago.
Because
uh,
that's what you're told, right?
yeah, yeah. I
That's the
mean,
problem.
it's one of those in which we're, as designers, trying to partner with the companies such as Cage, such as Von Erlande, going, what's the new technology? What can we implement in this space that will make it more efficient, that will give us again the same throughput or output or customer experience in a smaller footprint? Or if we increase it a little bit, does that increase the counter space, if you will, for the passengers to pick up their bag and they don't leave with that bad taste in their mouth, like you just said, Marlon? So it's a between the designers and the and the manufacturers, it's that relationship of, hey, we want to make things better. What do you what do you have that allows us to do that? That we don't have to take up a whole floor of this terminal just for reclaim.
Well, and you touch on something there also that's becoming more and more important is keeping our spaces flexible. So what we're installing today, I mean, the life of a system is 20 to 25 years, generally speaking. But what happens when new technology is infused into that? And now we need more room for ancillary systems that maybe traditionally weren't considered baggage systems per se, just as kiosks came in and are now making an exit for a lot of passengers who have everything mobile. They don't need to stop at a kiosk. So we don't need to fill those spaces with more equipment. How are you guys designing and staying future flexible so that you don't have to reinvent space every time something new comes to market?
Good question, Jen.
Yeah, you try to future proof and try to have that crystal ball. And part of that is, again, having those conversations and looking at spaces. We go to conferences that showcase new technologies and what is coming out, allowing you, it may be something as simple as adding more electrical floor boxes. So once something's taken out, you still have space to move and put a new system that's more flexible. So the only thing we can do is look at the hot things coming out that we may see. We'll look at, again, what is Asia doing? What is the Middle East doing? What do
Sure.
they have? And that way we can go, okay, this is where the trend is going. So let's make sure we allow for some changes in 10, 15 years that gives us more flexibility on that space.
And talking about flexibility on spaces, let's address another topic here. That's the topic of irregularity and disaster. Luckily, we are in the Netherlands. In Amsterdam, Schiphol Airport, everything goes flawless.
Of
So
course.
flawless,
Of course.
it goes so flawless that we now have 20,000 bags standing here, and Delta is flying in their own teams to make sure that everything will be resolved. But how do you deal with that? How do you deal with sometimes you need additional space? You need to store them. We have seen it in 2022, but it's still going on. And recently, during Christmas, we had our snow problems here. A lot of bags are there, no passengers. What do you do? How does that influence the design of an airport?
That is, and I'll let Azmat speak to the disaster and Plan B. 'Cause we had that not long ago, where best laid plans, and yet still, technology is what it is. But as I said, you design for maximum output plus some. There's times, and I remember back when I was working at Terminal 3 at LAX, and we had a bag jam and the entire system went down. And all it was the stop, the emergency stop button wasn't fully
Engaged or
reset, wasn't fully engaged. And that's all it was. And but yet, remember, it was Alaska Airlines, it was Horizon, I think it was, but they were hot. Why isn't the system work? And we had to run baggage, literally run baggage to the claims while we figured this out. And I am reading electrical schematics, figuring out where the fault is, and that was it. We pushed the button in, pushed it, pulled it back out, and the system reset and started. That was 45 minutes later.
Eh,
And it was, just something as simple as that. But we had to make it work. You design secondaries and you design backups and you design fail safes as much as you can, and yet still life will life and things will happen. Unfortunately, you just kind of roll with it and go and hope you have the people there that are doing the operations to pick up that slack and make it where the passengers have no idea that this is happening behind the scenes.
I'm seeing a big influx from our perspective on early bag storage systems. Is that something that you guys are hearing more often also to solve some of the saturation issues within the sortation system?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And that you can only design that for so big without affecting the capacity of the system
yeah,
itself. So
yeah.
yeah, there is such a fine balance when it comes to the baggage system that most don't know. And again, it's unfortunately a secondary thought of this is what we want, fit it into the design that here's the design, fit the system in, and we want everything from A to Z, but it's going to, it's going to completely affect what what the throughput and everything is. And yeah, from a baggage design aspect, it's kind of a travesty that it's overlooked because the system it's an ecosystem itself. It is a major system that gets just thrown to kind of last minute and an afterthought. And so yeah, make it fit in there.
And Ryan, that's funny because when I talk to baggage people and people that are, what is an airport? It's a baggage system with walls around it. That's what an airport
That's what
is.
it
That's
is.
how. Yeah. The complexity is that in the boardrooms they think it's a shopping mall, and where it happens that planes come in, and that's the big way of thinking. Also, the problems that we see right now and the dysfunction, let's be honest, the baggage processing part is broken. We do a lot of good stuff, but it's still broken. And if I talk to my sister, she's confused of bringing her back, even on a 2 weeks holiday. And that's because we don't believe in it anymore. We've shown that we are not capable of doing it. And that requires a completely new way of thinking how we handle baggage on an airport. And what's your vision for the next 30 years? Because I'm with you. You should start from scratch and then build something new.
Mhm.
But that's not reality. Most of the time, you need to convert buildings. That's what it is. But how does the next 20 years looks like? Because if we're doing the same, we will have the same problems on a different day in 20 years from now.
Yeah, and let me maybe add to that. So we have T9 eventually that'll be built at LAX, hopefully after the Olympics are over. So you have your baggage dream. What do you put into T9 in order to move bags?
Hey, Jen,
Yes.
the world is bigger than only Los Angeles. Eh? I hope you understand.
I'm using that as an example because I know it's a future
Yeah.
terminal.
For me,
That's not the gesture I'm giving you.
for me, my pie in the sky wish, I think that segment of putting bags from the plane onto a cart to then delivering it to the claim to then go is inefficient. I think it's inadequate and inefficient. Where to me, if I'm building an airport from the ground up, there should be essentially, say, a portal where the bag comes off the plane and you drop the bag right there, and that is its entrance into the baggage system. And from there, it's already inducted into the system, it's scanned, and it's either going to its connecting flight or it's going out to the makeup plane. That's for me. I think the carrying from that bag, and that's what takes the longest part when people are waiting for their bag. There's
And
to
yeah,
me,
and
there's it's the fact that we have to wait 20 plus minutes, plus if we're lucky, if that's what it is. I know that's what
yeah.
some
I
of the
don't know what
airlines are
airport it
running
is, but I'm
for.
going to use it. 20
Yeah,
minutes is acceptable for me.
But that's what I think. There should be a portal right there for each gate, or each gate, 2 or 3 gates. But that's where the bags get dropped, and they are immediately inducted into the system.
And the other
And
way around,
other way
the
around.
check-in, but the check-in, for example. If I look at a terminal, in any average airport, how would you rethink check-in?
I think I will lean towards making it a collective system where your check-ins are on your curbside as you go. So you're not really using that whole space coming into the terminal, and you're rethinking the real estate value as well. The second part is it will give you more mobility for the fact that people know that they have only so much time on the curbside, so they will plan it better. Drop the bag, check in, and walk into the facility.
Azmat, this is music to my ears. Let's assume you're in Orlando, and you are the owner. You're a cruise line operator, and let's say 3,000 passengers are disembarking. You have probably 4,000 bags that needs to go to the airport. So what we do, we let everybody pick up their own bag, scan it again, bring it to the airport. That's how we do it right now, which is insane. Insane. And how can we rethink that process to make it better for the passenger? And quite honestly, this is an example, but I see it all over the world, also here in Europe. And it's not home pickup, that might be a little bit too dense, but you can have the bigger groups of hotels play a huge role in this. So I'm totally with you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think as far as baggage and the check-in process, we almost need to be more collaborative in that thinking, and where we're allowing cruise lines to do it, we're allowing hotels to check it in, and especially cruises. Once I check my bag and gone, like that should be it. They're all part of transportation.
Yep.
So just check my bag in, and then I don't need to deal with it on the bus or on the shuttle. It's gone, and it's going to be there. And yet I can still be able to track it, just if I was on my United app, and I can look and see where my bag is in each step of the process and continue that way.
That's a good app. That's a good app, by the way, the United app.
You
probably will love that or not.
Yes.
Yeah. I know the software behind it's perfect. I have another question, Jen, if you don't mind.
Well, let's circle back to that, though, because I wanted to add something and ask another question there.
Go ahead. Women first.
Ladies first. For once,
I'm such a gentleman. Go ahead.
Yes, you sure are. Some of my frustrations is, when baggage consultants get pulled into projects, it's always surrounding the terminal. And there are so many other opportunities to take advantage of where to collect and deliver baggage. So all these con racks are being built and new garages, and completely leaving the baggage portion of things out of there, which effectively makes it useless for any kind of baggage for the next 50 years. So not addressing those things now severely reduces their opportunities in the future to move bags in a different way.
Absolutely. We were on the, unfortunately, unsuccessful team for the LAX people mover. But within our design, we had a design in the guideway of the people mover to have a baggage system.
I've been begging for this. I'm so glad to hear you say this.
And so from you're at the con rack, you check in your bags at the con rack, and it's in the system, and that's it. You're not worrying about carrying your bag on the train. That frees up more capacity on the train, makes the passenger experience better. And unfortunately, we were unsuccessful, but that's what we were planning for within our design, to have to be able to check your bag at the con rack, and that's it.
Well, and I didn't realize until I started asking questions as to why are we not using the people movers to move bags and get more people on 3 out of 4 car of the cars and 1 car dedicated to baggage, but that's all leased space. So as
Hmm.
everything else goes in aviation, here's the ways that you get backed into a corner on what your options are.
Absolutely.
But don't lose faith, because I think a lot of like-minded people like ourselves are a strong force towards fundamental change of baggage. And then the question arises, what will passenger notice from all those developments? Because that's what it is. The passenger needs to have a great experience, but the bag is the biggest hurdle. And what we discussed today is that baggage is a fundamental block on how we design airports.
Mhm.
So my final question for today, how would the world look like? And will operators still be quietly fighting behind the scenes, or will it be autonomous? And what will the passenger notice from that? So enlighten me on that one as a final thought of today.
The I think the sooner we can get a passenger's bag that they're checking out of their hands, the better the experience for them. Uh,
I'm totally with you.
whether it's at the curb, whether it's at the con rack, um, the sooner we can get it out of their hands and they're not lugging it on the train, they're not lugging it up an escalator or into an elevator. That is when they're free of that and they can watch their kids. They can look for the nearest coffee shop. They can do all those things and be rid of the bag that they're planning to be rid of anyway. The sooner that we can have them do that within the process, that is one burden that they are now free of. And that to me is where that future should start being pressed to go towards.
Asmat, any comments on that one?
I think I will say that I was thinking about it as you said, and I'm glad Ryan went first because that gave me time to think. Uh, because in my opinion, the airport or the terminal does not start when you hit the curbside. You have to look at the connectivity of the airport, how passengers are approaching to the airport, and how that experience looks like in continuation to baggage being the center point of that experience, right? If that is not think through, your baggage system will only make so much difference because the hurdles you will have getting into the airport will add the frustration of your baggage experience as well. So you have to think of it as the whole ecosystem where you're looking at connectivity as an experience for the end user, not just for the logistics where we can place things.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, and Marlon, just because you're done doesn't mean I'm done. So I did I did want to bring up also the things that need to be considered by the stakeholders when they are selecting a baggage system. There's more and more metrics that are being added to what you need to consider. One of those newer ones are energy consumption, and baggage
Correct.
systems consume an awful lot of energy within the
Absolutely, they
terminal.
do.
And
So
let's over engineer them. That's good. So we're always good. Let's make sure they use as much energy as possible, so they can always pull kilos of bags. Let's do that.
calm down, Marlon. Calm down.
Hey,
There's good things coming.
Jen, these guys stepped out of the climate conventions. They don't care.
I think they do care, but I would love to hear a little bit more about how you guys are addressing. We have a lot of eyes on lead builds that really are more about the building envelope than they are the systems operating inside of them. Not that there's none of that contributes to it, but I'm looking at all of the ways that we can reduce energy, whether that's run on demand
Mhm.
or reducing friction on belts on the O&M side of things. Can you guys talk a little bit from your perspective on how are you helping ramp down some of the energy consumption from these systems?
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of that gets put in design and how, as designers and with the system builders themselves, and what can we do to make that consumption as low as possible? And on the O&M side, to do that also actually helps our maintenance, because if belts are just running 24/7, that's killing the system as
Sure.
well. It's making its life go drastically down. So for us on the maintenance side, it behooves us to be more efficient with the system. Whether it's if it's a low throughput right now, if there's not a lot of flights, then maybe we only have 2 lines running instead of the 4 or the 6. You turn off the CTX machines are a huge power demand. So if we can just cut down half of those when they're not needed, that's a drastic improvement. The run on demand, to me, is an absolute must in any system right now. There's no reason for a belt to be running if no bag is coming through it. And that's why we have the photo eyes that
And I
can
think an
start
awful
it.
lot of
So,
systems are using run on demand now.
mhm.
However, I also hear reports that every time it starts back up, there's lots of bells and whistles. The guys in the bag rooms don't want to hear the bells and whistles, so they shut off run on demand to save their ears instead of energy.
Hmm.
So, yeah, there's.
Yeah, that would be a terrible design. to put it to put it simply. So I know, like, the system that we have at LaGuardia, and Azmat could speak to that more, but that it doesn't have a lot of bells and whistles when it starts up. At least not the whole line itself. But when a conveyor is starting up, it just starts up once that photo eye is triggered, and it's really efficient. It's for a system fairly quiet, which is lovely. And whether it's the high speed diverters or the vertical sorters, they don't activate until a bag is present. So again, that saves not on energy, it saves on noise, which then goes to your employees and their benefit and their experience. So all those things, when it goes even back to energy, affects even more so than just the energy itself.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Ryan, Asmat. Very interesting, by the way. And we are always on this edge on trying to get as much in depth and insight behind the scenes for our listeners. Got a lot of feedback, so I hope this will be fruitful for you guys as well and bring your knowledge all over the world. It shouldn't be staying on the West Coast. Although I love the West Coast, guys.
That's
It
our
sounds like
plan.
they've been at,
That's our plan,
yeah, some
Marlon.
other great places. It's been such a pleasure to talk with you guys. Like I said, this is my everyday life, so I love having these conversations with like-minded folks. So I appreciate very much your contributions and can't wait to further our discussions.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you both for your time. This was fantastic.
Ryan, Azmat, thank you both for such an honest and grounded conversation. What really stands out is how much baggage performance is influenced long before a single bag hits a belt. The layout of a terminal, the visibility of a space, the way people move and queue. These are design decisions, but they have real operational consequences every single day. To everyone listening, if this episode made you look differently at check-in halls or baggage claim next time you travel, then it has done its job. Thanks for listening to the BagFather. If you enjoyed this conversation, follow, subscribe, and share it with someone who works behind the scenes moving baggage forward. We will see you on the next episode.
And the BagFather is out.